For nearly 3 months, he stared at the mail-orderer-bride advertisement like it might turn on him if he let his guard down. Nights on the ranch were the worst. Once the sun dropped behind the hills, the quiet settled in heavy and mean. Silence had a way of digging under a man's skin. When he spent too many years alone, he told himself this was not about love. It never was. Love was for fools and younger men. This was about practicality. A house needed a woman's touch. A man needed company. That was the story he sold himself night after night until it sounded true enough to act on. So when the stagecoach finally rolled into town, wheels creaking and dust rising like a warning sign, his stomach dropped hard. He knew before he saw her that something was wrong. Out stepped the bride he had ordered like supplies from a catalog. And right then, standing there in the open street, he knew he had made a mistake he could not easily undo. She was not what he pictured, not soft, not timid, not nervous or wide-eyed. She did not look like she would faint if a cow moved too loud. She stood tall, chin lifted, eyes sharp and steady. Her dress was plain and worn from travel, but she wore it with quiet strength. She looked around the town at the rancher, at the whole situation, like she was already deciding if any of it was worth her time. "That's her," he muttered, pulling his hat low, even though everyone nearby heard him. Small towns heard everything. She spotted him right away, walked straight over and held out her hand. "You the one who sent for me?" she asked. Her voice was calm. No fear in it at all. That alone rattled him. Women out here usually kept their eyes down and their voices soft. This one looked at him like she would not shrink for anyone. He shook her hand without thinking, then wished he had not. Her grip was firm, confident. That was not what he thought he signed up for. The ride back to the ranch passed in thick silence. He stared ahead, jaw tight, already thinking of ways to fix this mess. Maybe he could pay her fare and send her back east. Maybe ranch life would scare her off on its own. Anything to undo the mistake sitting beside him. She did not speak much either. She watched the land roll by. The wide open fields, the broken fences, the weathered house standing alone against the sky. She did not complain, did not praise it either. She just watched. And somehow that made it worse. The ranch looked tired, like it had been fighting the land too long without help. Inside, he showed her the kitchen, the bedroom, the bare bones of a life built alone. "Ain't much," he said, already defensive. "I've lived with less," she replied. That stopped him cold. By sundown, the town already had opinions. Gossip spread faster than fire and dry grass. Everyone knew the mail-orderer bride had arrived, and by supper, they decided she was wrong for him. Too bold, too quiet, too something. He felt the looks when they passed through town together, curious, judgmental, hungry for a story. He hated it, hated that she was now part of his world, whether he liked it or not. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed with his boots still on. He had ordered a solution to loneliness. Not a woman with backbone and opinions. Regret settled in deep. He told himself that was the price of desperation. In the other room, she unpacked her few belongings carefully. She placed them like she meant to stay. Maybe forever. That thought twisted his gut. She was not begging for approval, not crying over the rough edges of the place. She acted like she belonged wherever she stood. He told himself this was temporary, just until he found a polite way out. But as the wind knocked against the walls that night, one thought bothered him more than regret. This woman did not look like someone who would leave easily, and deep down that scared him more than being alone ever had. Morning came cold and slow, the kind of cold that crept into your bones before you even opened your eyes. He rose before dawn like always, pulling on his boots, ready for another quiet day. Only the house did not feel empty anymore. He heard movement, a cup on the table, a low sound from the kitchen. She was already awake, standing at the stove, trying to coax heat from it. The coffee was weak, but it was hot, and that mattered. She poured him a cup and slid it across the table without asking. He took it with a single nod. That was their first unspoken agreement. They moved around each other carefully, like weary animals sharing space. Meals were stiff, words were few. He ate fast, she ate slow, watching him like she was studying the man tied to her future. The ranch did not wait for comfort. Fences needed mending. Animals needed feeding. He expected her to stay inside. Instead, she followed him out, sleeves rolled up, asking where she could help. "You don't got to do all that," he said. "I didn't come all this way to sit pretty," she answered. She worked harder than he expected. Her hands blistered. Dirt stained her skin. She did not complain once. When she stumbled, she stood back up. He pretended not to watch, but his assumptions started to crack. Night stayed cold. Conversation stayed thin. He slept light, aware there was someone else under his roof. She lay awake too, wondering if she had made the biggest gamble of her life. Loneliness hung between them, sharp and heavy. Sometimes it slipped, just a little. A shared laugh when a mule kicked over a bucket. A quiet moment watching the sun sink low. Those moments scared him. Hope felt dangerous. Town made it worse. Folks stared, whispered. He kept his jaw tight. She held her head high. She heard every word. She just refused to let it cut her. 3 days before the storm hit, the sky started acting wrong. Sunshine vanished behind thick clouds. Animals grew restless. The wind cut colder than it should have. He had seen bad weather before, but this felt personal. She felt it too. The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. By the second night, snow started falling soft and sneaky. Pretty at first, by morning, it turned mean. Wind howled. Snow buried the land fast. Fences vanished. Trails disappeared. Town was cut off. It was just them now. And a storm that did not care about regret. He worked himself raw, boarding up weak spots, hauling wood, checking the animals. She stayed right with him. When the wind nearly knocked her flat, he grabbed her arm without thinking. Fear flashed in her eyes. Not of him, of losing this fight. The house groaned under the storm's weight. Snow piled high. They rationed food, counted candles. This was not about awkward marriage anymore. It was about surviving the night. As the storm grew louder, something shifted. Respect settled in, quiet and solid. When they huddled near the fire, sharing warmth, neither spoke. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, 2 stubborn hearts stood their ground, and the storm was only getting started. The storm did not ease with the night. It grew teeth. Winds slammed the house like it meant to tear it apart, board by board. Snow forced its way through every crack, no matter how hard they tried to stop it. The fire burned low and stubborn, like it was fighting the storm, same as they were. The world outside vanished into white noise and darkness. Inside, everything shrank down to heat, breath, and trust. They took turns feeding the fire, took turns checking the walls. Neither complained. Fear had a way of cutting nonsense clean out of a person. When he snapped about the woodpile running low, she snapped back about him taking risks that could kill him. Words came sharp, but they cooled just as fast. There was no room for pride now, only survival. In the middle of the night, a sound split the air, a crash from the barn. He grabbed his coat without thinking. She caught his arm. "Don't go out there alone," she said. Her voice shook just a little. "I have to," he answered. "If the animals panic, we lose everything." She nodded once. "Then I'm coming." He wanted to argue, did not. Outside, the storm hit like a wall. Snow blinded them. Wind nearly dropped them to their knees. They moved slow, one hand on the rope tied between them, the other feeling their way forward. The barn door hung crooked, half torn loose. Inside, the animals were wild with fear. She talked to them low and steady, same way she talked to him when he got stubborn. The sound of her voice cut through the chaos. He worked fast, hands numb, fixing what he could. At one point, a beam shifted and nearly crushed his leg. She yanked him back with strength he did not know she had. For a split second they stared at each other, breath ragged. That was when he saw it. She was not scared of the storm. She was scared of losing him. They made it back to the house, shaking and soaked. Exhaustion hit hard. She sat by the fire, rubbing her hands. He poured the last of the coffee and handed it to her without thinking. She took it, fingers brushing his. Neither pulled away. Later, wrapped in blankets near the fire, the house creaking around them, she finally spoke. "You regret ordering me, don't you?" The question landed heavy. No place to hide, he stared into the fire a long moment. "Yeah," he said, then corrected himself. "I did." She nodded like she already knew. "Fair enough." Something broke loose then. Words spilled out. He told her about the loneliness, about nights so quiet they felt loud, about how ordering a bride felt easier than admitting he could not stand being alone anymore. He admitted he expected someone quiet, easy, someone who would fit into the empty spaces of his life without changing it. She let out a short laugh. Not cruel, honest. "My turn," she said. She told him about the life she left back east, about scraping by, about work that paid little and took more than it gave, about men who promised safety and delivered control. Answering the ad had not been romance, it had been survival. "Guess we both lied to ourselves," he said. "Differences," she replied. "I'm still standing." For the first time, he smiled. Not much, but real. The storm raged on, but inside something settled. Respect. Raw and unpolished. He was not looking at a mistake anymore. He was looking at a woman who had fought her way here, same as he had fought to stay alive on this land. "I thought about sending you away," he admitted. She met his eyes without flinching. "I figured, but I won't stay where I'm not wanted." "That's fair," he said. "All I'm asking for is a chance to get this right." They did not touch, did not rush anything. When her hand brushed his by accident, warmth spread instead of sparks. It felt earned. When exhaustion finally pulled them under, there was no wall between them, just quiet understanding. The fire burned low. Regret loosened its grip. The storm limped off slow. Wind eased. Snow stopped falling. Morning light revealed a ranch beaten nearly flat. Fences buried. The barn roof half gone. Drift swallowed the land. She stepped outside wrapped in his coat. He did not ask for it back. "Looks like we got work," she said. They worked shoulder to shoulder all day, digging, repairing, moving like a team. He stopped barking orders. She stopped asking permission. Trust settled in, solid and real. By afternoon, riders from town pushed through. With them came looks and whispers. One man laughed. "Storm almost chased your bride off, huh?" Something snapped inside him. "She stayed," he said. "Worked harder than most men I know." Silence followed. That night, after town talk followed them home, she packed her things. "I can leave," she said. "I won't be the reason you become a joke." He stepped in front of the door. "This ain't about them. It's about us. I choose you, not out of loneliness, out of respect." She nodded once. Deal struck. The storm had broken fences and roofs. It had also broken the old rules he lived by, and neither of them would ever be the same. Spring did not arrive with noise or celebration. It came slow and careful, like it was testing whether it was welcome. Snow melted into thick mud. Mud turned into thin green shoots. The land breathed again. The ranch looked rough, scarred by winter, but it stood same as them. Mornings changed. Coffee tasted better. Silence no longer felt sharp. It felt shared. They worked side by side without thinking about it. Movements, easy, words, simple. Where marriage once felt like a trap to him, it now felt like having someone watch your back when the world turned mean. He noticed small things. The way she hummed while cooking. The way she spoke to the horses like they understood every word. Sometimes he caught himself watching her and did not look away fast enough. She noticed, raised an eyebrow, said nothing like she knew exactly what she had done to him. They still argued. Real love was not clean or quiet, it was grit and give. But their fights ended different now. No threats, no walls, just truth laid out plain until it made sense again. Town came around slow, same as spring. Folks stopped staring so hard, started nodding. Some even asked her advice. She did not boast, just stood tall and handled business. He watched her earn respect the hard way, and it filled his chest with something warm and proud. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky golden red, he said it out loud. "That ad I sent in, best mistake I ever made." She laughed, soft and real, funny. "I was thinking the same." They talked about the future then. Not big dreams, solid ones. Better fences, a bigger garden, maybe children someday if the world allowed it. This was not about escaping loneliness anymore. It was about building something that could last. He understood regret differently now. It was not a punishment, it was a teacher. Love did not arrive neat and easy. Sometimes it tracked mud through your house and demanded you grow. The 1885 storm turned into legend in town. Folks told it like a ghost story, how it buried the valley, how men nearly froze, how the ranch barely survived. But for him it marked a line, before and after. One quiet night, stars thick overhead, he pulled her close on the porch, arm around her shoulders like it always belonged there. No fear, no doubt, just peace. He did not regret ordering a bride anymore. He regretted ever thinking love was something you could control. The storm that nearly broke him gave him the life he never knew he needed.